Good evening. As today, as we continue to celebrate Morrowind, we're going to take a look at some of the game's many books. Morrowind is such a big, immersive world to explore, um, but we're not doing any exploration today. We're going to look at another aspect of the game that a lot of players often overlook, and that's all the great literature that is in game. Some of the books expand on the lore, some of them tell fantastic stories. There's, I think, hundreds of books, probably. So, we're just going to go down to Jobasha's bookshop in Vivec and read a bunch of random books tonight. No action, no adventure, just lots of entertaining stories and some dramatic stories. Um, Let us begin. Hold on, my game is being unresponsive right now. My game went unresponsive. Let me try this a different way. Yeah, it's not an Uncle Evie Morrowind stream without some technical difficulties first getting in, right? So yeah, hopefully this one won't crash on me on startup. We'll get there. Eventually. Uh, what's it doing? Okay, I get a response. Alright, looks like this one's going to do its thing. But I'm operating on one screen tonight, so I'll do my best to monitor chat. But no guarantees. Game's in a tiny window, so let's see how well I can read it. And I can already see that this engine is not aligned right in the viewer. Let me go ahead and fix that. We're getting there. Takes a few minutes to load. So yeah, there's not going to be much action on tonight's stream anyway. So it's an extra minute getting into it. Okay, you can start any day now. Preferably today. Seven and a half minutes in and the game's not even loaded yet. Alright, quick start. Name. I was making a Kadjit last time, wasn't I? Khajiit, I mean. That's our guy. Reading, so we'll just be a bard tonight. Lover, because I'm sure we'll read some romance stories. Alright, since it's a reading stream, let's start with the release note. For release by Emperor Uriel Septim 7th decree to the district of Vardenfell in the province of Morrowind. Name, Evie. Race, Khajiit. Class, Bard. Signed, Socusius Argala, agent of the Satanine Imperial Census and Excise, 16th of Last Seed, 3rd Era, 427. And before I go, let me just make sure I'm centered in the frame here. It's good enough. I mean, you're just going to see books on screen for most of tonight's stream, so. We can talk to this guy, because other than this guy, we're going to have very little interaction tonight, except for... Ooh, he gave us the directions to Caius. We can read that, too. Evie, you have been given these directions in a package of documents. Do not show them to anyone. Do not attempt to read the documents in the package. The package has been sealed, and your tampering will be discovered and punished. Follow these directions. Proceed to the town of Balmora in Vardenfell district. Report to a man named Caius Casades. He will be your superior and patron. You will follow his orders. His residence is not known, but ask at the corner club called South Wall. People there will know where to find Caius Casades. When you report to Caius Casades, deliver the package of documents to him and wait for further orders. Remember, you owe your life and freedom to the Emperor. Serve him well and you will be rewarded. Betray him and you will suffer the fate of all traitors. I have the honor to prepare this at the direction of His Most Sovereign Majesty the Emperor Uriel Septim. Glabriel Bellinius, personal secretary to the Emperor. Since we're not going to Caius Casades, well, attempting to read the package gives me this. Okay, then. I'm sure this is an actual code of some sort. It's probably been translated online somewhere. The game's been out 20 years. I'm sure somebody's cracked the code. Alright. First, let's go get some clothing. Even though we're not doing any adventure, it'll be nice to at least have a little bit of appearance to the character, so we're getting some clothing right now. What's the... Alright, Yeah, that should suffice. Khajiit, so I can't wear shoes. Alright, so Khajiits and Arconians cannot wear boots or helmets. You know what? These are kind of overkill. Let's go with these. Alright, that's good enough for what we need. Now, let's get dressed. Alright, so there's our look for today. Classy reader type guy. Oh look, this robe even comes with a little bag. Those gloves look nice and classy. Or should I say gauntlets. Now let's go get the rest of our money. Now I don't remember exactly where in Vivec Jobasha is. I don't remember exactly where in Vivec Jobasha shop is, except that's 4 1/4. But I don't remember what level. Quick flight over to Vivec. There's the city. And there's a look of my guy in the sunlight. All right, 4 1/4. Gotta love lag, right? I know he's in one of the wasteworks. I probably should have looked this up before I came. So there's actually 4 booksellers in Vanilla Morrowind. One in Aldrune, one in Balmora. There's another one in Vivec. I forget which quarter. And then Jobasha here in the 4 1/4. I don't think Blood Moon has any. I'm pretty sure there's one in Tribunal. But I can't swear to that. Let's keep expanding the map till we figure out what's here. I know he's not in the plaza. He's in one of these maze sections. I haven't properly mapped out this side yet. Don't you just hate it when the NPCs just stand in your way and block you from walking? Alright, there's a complete map to this section, and I'm not seeing any Jobasha. So let's head out on down to Lower Wasteworks. There's the Enchanter. Apothecary. Alchemist. Jobasha's Rare Books. We found it. And I didn't even have to consult a help guide. So for the rest of the stream, we're going to be in this one cell. No more loading, no nothing. We'll just go in, pick random books, and read. There's lots of books at this place. The only place that has more books in Vivec than this place is the Vivec Temple Library. But you can't buy books from there. Look, 2 Khajiits looking like they're about to have a casual conversation. That's nice. Alright, let's get to reading. What do I want to read first? Words of Clan Mother Anisi. We will start with that one. How long a book is it? Wow, this is a pretty long one. Words of Clan Mother Anisi to her favored daughter. Anisi tells you, you are no longer... Oh, Anisi's a Khajiit. Anisi tells you are no longer a mewing kitten, and you have learned to keep secrets from Anisi, and so Anisi tells you. In the beginning there were 2 littermates, Honor and Fatomai. After many phases, Fatomai said to Honor, let us wed and make children to share our happiness. And they gave birth to Alkash, the first cat, and a nurse said, Alkash, we give you time, for what is as fast or as slow as a cat? I'm recognizing some of these names from the lore. And they gave birth to Kinarthi, the winds. Kinarthi, to you we give the sky, for what can fly higher than the wind? And they gave birth to Magris, the cat's eye. Magris, to you we give the sun, for what is brighter than the eye of a cat? And they gave birth to Mara, the mother cat. Mara, you are love, for what is more loving than a mother? And they gave birth to Srendar, the runt. Srendar, we give you mercy, for how does a runt survive except by mercy? And many phases passed, and Honor and Fatomai were happy. And Honor said, we should have more children to share our happiness, and Fatomai agreed. And she gave birth to Hermora, and she gave birth to Hirsine, and she gave birth to Maroons, and Mafala, and Sangan, and Shegarath, and so many others. And Fatomai said, Hermora, you are the tides, for who can say whether the moons predict the tides, or the tides predict the moons? Hirsine, you are the hungry cat, for what hunts better than a cat with an empty belly? Maroons, you are the Khajiit, for what is more destructive than a kitten? Mafala, you are the clan mother, for what is more secretive than the ways of the clan mothers? Sangin, you are the blood cat, for who can control the urges of blood? Shegarath, you are the skooma cat, for what is crazier than a cat on skooma? And a nurse said, 2 litters is enough, for too many children will steal our happiness. But Kinarthi went to Fatomai and said, Fatomai, mother, Kinarthi grows lonely so high above the world where not even my brother Alkosh can fly. Fatimai took pity on her and tricked Honor to make her pregnant again. And Fatimai gave birth to the moons and their motions, and she gave birth to Nirni, the majestic sands and lush forests, and she gave birth to Azora, the dusk and the dawn. And from the beginning, Nirni and Azora fought for their mother's favor. An Honor caught Fatimai while she was still birthing, and he was angry. Honor struck Fatimai, and she fled to birth the last of her litter far away in the great darkness. Fatimai's children heard what had happened, and they all came to be with her and protect her from Honor's anger. And Fatimai gave birth to Lorkaj, the last of her litter, in the great darkness. And the heart of Lorkaj was filled with the great darkness. And when he was born, the great darkness knew its name, and it was Namira. And Fatimai knew her time was near. Fatimai said, Jakaje, to you Fatimai gives the lattice, for what is steadier than the phases of the moons? Your eternal motions will protect us from Honor's anger. And the moons left to take their place in the heavens, and Honor growled and shook the great darkness, but he could not cross the lattice. And Fatimai said, Nirni, to you Fatimai leaves her greatest gift. You will give birth to many people as Fatimai gave birth today. When Nirni saw that Azora had nothing, Nirna left smiling. And all of Fatimai's children left except Azora. And Fatimai said, to you, my favorite daughter, Fatimai leaves her greatest gift. To you, Fatimai leaves her secrets. And Fatimai told her favorite daughter 3 things. And Fatimai said, when Nirni is filled with her children, take one of them and change them. Make the fastest, cleverest, most beautiful people, and call them Khajiit. And Fatimai said, the Khajiit must be the best climbers, for if Master and Secunda fail, they must climb Kinarthi's breath to set the moons back in their courses. And Fatimai said, the Khajiit must be the best deceivers, for they must always hide their nature from the children of Honor. And Fatimai said that Khajiit must be the best survivors, for Nirni will be jealous, and she will make the sands harsh and the forests unforgiving, and the Khajiit will always be hungry and at war with Nirni. One moment. And with these words, Fatimai died. After many phases, Nirni came to Lorkaj and said, Lorkaj, Fatimai told me to give birth to many children, but there is no place for them. And Lorkaj said, Lorkaj makes a place for children, and Lorkaj puts you there so you can give birth. But the heart of Lorkaj was filled with a great darkness, and Lorkaj tricked his siblings so that they were forced into this new place with Nirni. And many of Fatimai's children escaped and became the stars. And many of Fatimai's children died to make Nirni's path stable. And the survivors stayed and punished Lorkaj. The children of Fatimai tore out the heart of Lorkaj and hid it deep within Nirni. And they said, we curse you, noisy Lorkaj, to walk Nirni for many phases. But Nirni soon forgave Lorkaj, for Nirni could make children. And she filled herself with children, but cried because her favorite children, the forest people, did not know their shape. And Azora came to her and said, poor Nirni, stop your tears. Azora makes for you a gift of a new people. Nirni stopped weeping, and Azora spoke the first secret to the moons, and they parted and let Azora pass. And Azora took some forest people who were torn between man and beast, and she placed them in the best deserts and forests on Nirni. And Azora, in her wisdom, made them of many shapes, one for every purpose. And Azora named them Khajiit and told them her second secret and taught them the value of secrets. And Azora bound the new Khajiit to the lunar lattice, as is proper for Nirni's secret defenders. Then Azora spoke the third secret, and the moon shone down on the marshes, and their light became sugar. But Ifer heard the first secret and snuck in behind Azora. And Ifer could not appreciate secrets, and he told Nirni of Azora's trick. So Nirni made the deserts hot and the sands biting. And Nirni made the forests wet and filled with poisons. And Nirni thanked Ifer and let him change the forest people also. And Ifer did not have Azora's subtle wisdom, so Ifer made the forest people elves always and never beasts. and Ifra named them Bosmer. And from that moment they were no longer in the same litter as the Khajiit. And because Ifra had no appreciation for secrets, he shouted the first secret across all the heavens with his last breath, so that all Fatimized children could cross the lattice. But Azora, in her wisdom, closed the ears of angry Honor and noisy Lorcash, so they alone did not hear the word. That was an interesting first book, because it turned out to be a creation myth. Let's pick another book. Nagastai Kavata Kavakis. And we'll also go ahead and pick up nursery rhymes while we're here. So, Nagasta Kavata Kavakis. An obscure text in the language of the Slode, purportedly written by the Second Era Western necromancer Nagasta. Nagasta Kavata Kavakis. Nagasta Kavata Kavakis. Axta so navach lectero oix jamil so ranital. Recebus in pagantage membral, kaj aliaj individual, quiun emanari tusa so renata activado. And G Paris informal un novis priso local so exumentage convenal, sed nature and coi pre aliaj actuasoj. How long does activical so associado? Ne malafte anaxtus chrome pledge diversus pecta materialo educa oix distra. So interreta cavaco, ret litera kaj vergehu, axtas unofsanque alternativage canasal for distribui so en haven so prepara quac, sed alafsanque so en hovao so diversage vergal, and toix vibol ne povas, kaj ex nevus sium hoxti sent persante so sama, and malvaste circusanta paperfolio exemple epsos publicigi illustrage xom, quiuge pro copiritage quieso ne axtas usabisoj and so interreto. Alafsanque so masaltage costal reta distribuo forages, so spacajan lemigon kaj permaxus, pli amplixam and heaven por me, paroli pre grixora actualico. Tiuge circumstant call roxbeguligzos and so aspecto so cavacoa, huja cetere servos encoi kiel genis raso, retejo so ranata. I have no idea what that was about, but at least I tried, right? Nursery rhymes. Nursery rhymes by Ariel Ledoy. The guar is a wonderful creature. It has an unusual feature. It has a big grin that can whistle or sing and makes a most excellent teacher. A nixhound befriended a guar. The couple then journeyed afar. Said the hound, let us frighten the pilgrims, then bite them, and give them a jolly big scar. Okay, so this is basically just a limerick book. Said the guar, we could chase them away, and give them a reason to pray. A pilgrim could hear who had guar skin for spear, and had nix hound for supper that day. One day beside a sunlit lake, a fairy met a Bosmer cross, and asked him, gentle mortal, how did you befall this dreadful loss? The Bosmer had his tree house felled in the last evening's thunderstorm, and so he sat, his head in hands, his felled abode so to be mourn. The fairy took great pity then upon her homeless friend bewoed, and so resolved to aid him now and reconstruct his felled abode. She sent him out to gather twine and fairy dust and dragon scale, whilst to the fairy queen she went and told the queen her fairy tale. The fairy queen then gave a smile and told the fairy she may do what she saw fit to make the house atop the tree all built anew. The Bosmer brought the fairy all she needed for her fairy spell, and in the new tree house they danced all night in that enchanted dell. Okay, that was a nice, touching little story at the end to finish that nursery rhyme book after the nice poetry. Wow. That's a 7-part book. We'll skip that. Let's try a less rude song. A less rude song by Anonymous. They say the Iliac Bay is a place to barrel around without a bit of apparel on, as advertised in that carol song, a tune that sung as the west wind blows, about it lovely not wearing any clothes. Ladies singing high notes, men singing lows, implying that the most luscious depravity and complete absence of serious gravity can only be found in the waterous cavity of Iliac Bay. If you are the type who is more a sinner than a sinned, you'll find it all in Morrowind. But the truth, my child, is that nothing more wild, that an ordinary fashion, kind of slightly mad passion, can be detected, if at all, in Sentinel and Daggerfall. Whatever your odd needs, feathered, scaled, or finned, you'll find it all in Morrowind. It's an invention of bards that Bretons and Redguards have more than some staid fun and suffered defiant fornication. For the most of madness, not the least, the wise debaucher heads out east. Where your once steely resolve is now merely tinned, you'll find it all in Morrowind. In Morrowind there is sin, but pray do not confuse dumber variety with that found in tepid Western society, compared to which it nearly is piety. It isn't terribly ingenious calling it prudery, observing the dark elf aversion to nudity. After all, the preferred sort of ludity in these parts is far more pernicious. From the ashlanders to the wettest fishes, you'll find pleasure and pain quite delicious in Morrowind. If you find yourself with unkind kinship with your kin, you'll find it all in Morrowind. That was a nice little poetic experience. Let's pick something else. The Brothers of Darkness. That one sounds fun. How long is this one? Not too bad. The Brothers of Darkness by Pilarne Assi. As their name suggests, the Dark Brotherhood has a history shrouded in obfuscation. Their ways are secret to those who are not themselves brothers of the Order. Brother is a generic term. Some of their deadliest assassins are female, but they are often called brothers as well. How they continue to exist in shadow, but easily found by those desperate enough to pay for their services, is not the least of the mysteries surrounding them. The Dark Brotherhood sprang from a religious order, the Morag Tong, during the Second Era. The Morag Tong were worshippers of the dangerous spirit Mephala, who encouraged them to commit ritual murders. In their early years, they were as disorganized as only obscure cultists could be. There was no one to lead the band, and as a group they dared not murder anyone of importance. This changed with the rise of the Night Mother. All leaders of the Morag Tong, and then afterward the Dark Brotherhood, have been called the Night Mother. Whether the same woman, if it is even a woman, has commanded the Dark Brotherhood since the Second Era is unknown. What is believed is that the original Night Mother developed an important doctrine of the Morag Tong. The belief that, while Mephala does grow stronger with every murder committed in her name, certain murders were better than others. Murders that came from hate pleased Mephala than murders committed because of greed. Murders of great men and women pleased Mephala more than murders of relative unknowns. We can approximate the time this belief was adopted with the first known murder committed by the Morag Tong. In the year 324 of the Second Era, the potentate Versidue Shai was murdered in his palace in what is today the Elsewhere Kingdom of Senchal. In a brash move, the Night Mother announced the identity of the murderers by painting Morag Tong on the walls in the potentate's own blood. Previous to that, the Morag Tong existed in relative peace, more or less like a witches' coven. occasionally persecuted but usually ignored. In remarkable synchronicity, at a time when Tamriel, the arena, was a fractured land, the Morag Tong was outlawed throughout the continent. Every sovereign gave the cult's elimination his highest priority. Nothing more was officially heard of them for 100 years. It is more difficult to date the era when the Morag Tong re-emerged as the Dark Brotherhood, especially as other guilds of assassins have sporadically appeared throughout the history of Tamriel. The first mention of the Dark Brotherhood that I have found is from the journals of the Blood Queen Arla Mahera of Hegath. She spoke of slaying her enemies by her own hand, or if necessary, with the help of the Night Mother and her Dark Brotherhood, the secret arsenal my family has employed since my grandfather's time. Arla Mahera wrote this in Second Era 412, so one can surmise that the Dark Brotherhood had been in existence since at least 360, if her grandfather had truly made use of them. The important distinction between the Dark Brotherhood and the Morag Tong was that the Brotherhood was a business as much as it was a cult. Rulers and wealthy merchants used the order as an assassin's guild. The Brotherhood gained the obvious rewards of a profitable enterprise, as well as the secondary benefit that rulers could no longer actively persecute them. They were needed. They were purveyors of an essential commodity. Even an extremely virtuous leader would be unwise to mistreat the Brotherhood. Not long after Ali Mahera's journal entry came perhaps the most famous series of executions in the history of the Dark Brotherhood. The Colovian Emperor, Potentate Severian Shorak, and every one of his heirs were murdered on one bloody night in sun's dawn in 430. Within a fortnight, the Colovian dynasty crumbled, to the delight of its enemies. For over 400 years, until the advent of the warrior emperor Tiber Septim, chaos reigned over Tamriel. Though no comparably impressive executions have been recorded, the Brotherhood must have grown fat with gold during that interregnum. The Dark Brotherhood has no shortage of business opportunities. An accounting, I have been informed, is the Brotherhood's favorite euphemism for an execution. While they are officially considered an unlawful organization in every corner of the empire, like the Thieves' Guild, they are almost as universally tolerated. Alright. Jobasha, you can't go anywhere. We need you tonight. Let's see. What do I want? Lots of books here. Lots of copies of The Pilgrim's Path. The Madness of Pelagius. We're going to do The Madness. How long is this one? Not too bad. The Madness of Pelagius by Sathanas. The man who would be emperor of all Tamriel was born Thoris Pelagius Septim, a prince of the royal family of Wayrest in 3rd Era 119, at the end of the glorious reign of his uncle Antiochus I. Wayrest had been showered by much preference during the years before Pelagius' birth, for King Magnus was Antiochus' favorite brother. It is hard to say when Pelagius' madness first manifested itself, for, in truth, the first 10 years of his life were marked by much insanity in the land itself. When Pelagius was just over a year old, Antiochus died, and a daughter, Kintira, assumed the throne to the acclaim of all. Kintira, too, was Pelagius' cousin and an accomplished mystic and sorceress. If she had sufficient means to peer into the future, she would have surely fled the palace. The story of the War of the Red Diamond has been told in many other scholarly journals, but as most historians agree, Kintira II's reign was usurped by her and Pelagius' cousin Uriel, by the power of his mother, Potema, the so-called Wolf Queen of Solitude. The year after her coronation, Kintira was trapped in Glenpoint and imprisoned in the imperial dungeon there. All of Tamriel exploded into warfare as Prince Uriel took the throne as Uriel III, and High Rock, because the imprisoned empress's presence there was the location of some of the bloodiest battles. Pelagius' father, King Magnus, allied himself with his brother Sepphoris against the usurper emperor, and brought the wrath of Uriel III and Queen Potema down on Wayrest. Pelagius, his brothers and sisters, and his mother Euthala fled to the Isle of Balfiera. Euthala was of the line of Dureni, and her family manse is still located on that ancient isle even to this day. There is thankfully much written record of Pelagius's childhood in Balfiera, recorded by nurses and visitors. All who met him described him as a handsome, personable boy interested in sport, magic, and music. Even assuming diplomats' lack of candor, Pelagius seemed, if anything, a blessing to the future of the Septim dynasty. When Pelagius was 8, Sepphoris slew Uriel III at the Battle of Ichidog and proclaimed himself Emperor Sepphoris I. For the next 10 years of his reign, Sepphoris battled Potema. Pelagius' first battle was the Siege of Solitude, which ended with Potema's death and the final end of the war. In gratitude, Sepphoris placed Pelagius on the throne of Solitude. As king of Solitude, Pelagius' eccentricities of behavior began to be noticeable. As a favorite nephew of the emperor, few diplomats to Solitude made critical commentary about Pelagius. For the first 2 years of his reign, Pelagius was at the very least noted for his alarming shifts in weight. 4 months after taking the throne, a diplomat from Ebenhart called Pelagius a hale and hearty soul with a heart so big it widens his waist. 5 months after that, the visiting princess of Firsthold wrote to her brother that the king's gripped my hand and it felt like I was being clutched by a skeleton. Pelagius is greatly emaciated indeed. Sepphoris never married and died childless 3 years after the Siege of Solitude. As the only surviving sibling, Pelagius' father, Magnus, left the throne of Wayrest and took residence at the imperial city as the Emperor Magnus I. Magnus was elderly and Pelagius was his oldest living child, so the attention of Tamriel focused on Sentinel. By this time, Pelagius' eccentricities were becoming infamous. There are many legends about his acts as king of Sentinel, but few well-documented cases exist. It is known that Pelagius locked the young princes and princesses of Silvanar in his room with him, only releasing them when an unsigned declaration of war was slipped under the door. When he tore off his clothes during a speech he was giving at a local festival, his advisors apparently decided to watch him more carefully. On the orders of Magnus, Pelagius was married to the beautiful heiress of an ancient dark elf noble family, Kataraya Rathim. Nordic kings who marry dark elves seldom improve their popularity. There are 2 reasons most scholars give for the union. Magnus was trying to cement relations with Ebenhart, where the Rathim clan hailed. Ebenhart's neighbor, Mournhold, had been a historical ally of the empire since the very beginning, and the royal consort of Queen Berenzia had won many battles in the War of the Red Diamond. Ebenhart had a poorly kept secret of aiding Uriel III in Potema. The other reason for the marriage was more personal. Kataraya was as shrewd a diplomat as she was beautiful. If any creature was capable of hiding Pelagius' madness, it was she. On the 8th of 2nd Seed, 3rd Era 145, Magnus I died quietly in his sleep. Joleth, Pelagius' sister, took over the throne of Solitude, and Pelagius and Kataraya rose to the imperial city to be crowned Emperor and Empress of Tamriel. It is said that Pelagius fainted when the crown was placed on his head, but Kataraya held him up so only those closest to the thrones could see what had happened. Like so many Pelagius stories, this cannot be verified. Pelagius III never truly ruled Tamriel. Kataraya and the Elder Council made all the decisions and only tried to keep Pelagius from embarrassing all. Still, stories of Pelagius III's reign exist. It was said that when the Argonian ambassador from Blackrose came to court, Pelagius insisted on speaking in all grunts and squeaks, as that was the Argonians' natural language. It is known that Pelagius was obsessed with cleanliness, and many guests reported waking to the noise of an early morning scrub-down of the imperial palace. The legend of Pelagius, while inspecting the servants' work, suddenly defecating on the floor to give them something to do, is probably apocryphal. When Pelagius began actually biting and attacking visitors to the imperial palace, it was decided to send him to a private asylum. Catariah was proclaimed regent 2 years after Pelagius took the throne. For the next 6 years, the emperor stayed in a series of institutions and asylums. Traitors to the empire have many lies to spread about this period. Whispered stories of hideous experiments and tortures performed on Pelagius have almost become accepted as fact. The noble lady Catariah became pregnant shortly after the emperor was sent away, and rumors of infidelity and even more absurd conspiracies to keep the sane emperor locked away ran amok. As Catariah proved, her pregnancy came about after a visit to her husband's cell. With no other evidence, as loyal subjects, we are bound to accept the empress's word on the matter. Her second child, who would reign for many years as Uriel IV, was the child of her union with her consort Lariat, and publicly acknowledged as such. On a warm night in Sun's dawn in his 34th year, Pelagius III died after a brief fever in his cell at the Temple of Kinnereth in the Isle of Bethany. Catariah I reigned for another 46 years before passing the scepter on to the only child she had with Pelagius, Cassander. Pelagius's wild behavior has made him perversely dear to the province of his birth and death. The 2nd of Sun's dawn, which may or may not be the anniversary of his death, records are not very clear, is celebrated as Mad Pelagius, the time when foolishness of all sorts is encouraged. And so, one of the least desirable emperors in the history of the Septim dynasty has become one of the most famous ones. Okay, that's an interesting book about... that gives me thoughts of Caligula from the Romans. Real Baron's Eye is going to be a stream in itself, I think. The Yellow Book of Riddles. The Yellow Book of Riddles. For earnest pleasure and the strengthening of the mind, the author here collects all that he has learned of the art of riddling by dint of diligent study and through years of discourse with others of similar inclination. The posing and puzzling of riddles is a convention of polite aristocratic Western society. Nobles and social aspirants collect books of riddles and study them, hoping thereby to increase the chances of their appearing sly and witty in conversation. A metal neither black nor red, as heavy as man's golden greed, what you do to stay ahead, with friend or arrow or steed. Neither black nor red, heavy as greed. What you do to stay ahead, friend, arrow, steed. Oh, lead, lead. Lead is a metal that's gray. It's a heavy metal. And you lead to stay ahead. A man says, if you lie to me, I will slay you with my sword. If you tell me to the truth, I will slay you with a spell. What must you say to stay alive? So if I lie, he'll kill me with a sword. If I tell the truth, he'll kill me with a spell. So I have to tell him he will kill me with his sword. Because if he kills me with the sword, that means I lied, and he has to kill me with a spell. But if he kills me with a spell, if he kills me with the sword, that means that I told the truth. So he has to kill me with a spell instead. But if he kills me with a spell, that means that I lied. So he has to kill me with a sword. So yeah, I basically have to tell him to kill me with a sword. Because, whatever, let's move on. That one's giving me a headache just thinking about. Bosmer was slain. The Altmer claims the Dunmer is guilty. The Dunmer says the Khajiit did it. The Orc swears he didn't kill the Bosmer. The Khajiit says the Dunmer is lying. If only one of these speaks the truth, who killed the Bosmer? The Khajiit says the Dunmer is lying. The Altmer claims the Dunmer says the Khajiit did it. Only... I don't even know. It says the answer is the orc. Let's think about this one for a minute. If only one of them speaks the truth. So the Khajiit says the Dunmer is lying. The Dunmer said the Khajiit did it. So that's a lie. If the Khajiit speaks the truth. The orc says he didn't kill it, but if the Khajiit speaks the truth, that means the orc did it. The Altmer claims the Dunmer was guilty, but if the Khajiit says that the Dunmer was lying, that means that the Khajiit was speaking the truth, and the Altmer also has to be lying. So, yeah, the orc. Okay, I get their logic. All right, next book. That's a two-parter. Let's do The Firmament. That one's apparently a classic. The Firmament. Where is it? Oh, this is this one has pictures in it. The Firmament by Folke. The stars of Tamriel are divided into 13 constellations. 3 of them are the major constellations known as the Guardians. These are the Warrior, the Mage, and the Thief. Each of the Guardians protects its 3 charges from the 13th constellation, the Serpent. When the sun rises near one of the constellations, it is that constellation's season. Each constellation has a season of approximately 1 month. The Serpent has no season, for it moves about in the heavens, usually threatening one of the other constellations. There's a picture of the Warrior. The Warrior is the first Guardian constellation, and he protects his charges during their seasons. The Warrior's own season is last seed, when his strength is needed for the harvest. His charges are the Lady, the Steed, and the Lord. Those born under the sign of the Warrior are skilled with weapons of all kinds, but prone to short tempers. The Mage. The Mage is a Guardian constellation whose season is Rain's Hand, when Magicka was first used by man. His charges are the Apprentice, the Golem, and the Ritual. Those born under the Mage have more Magicka and talent for all kinds of spell casting, but are often arrogant and absent-minded. The Thief. The Thief is the last Guardian constellation, and her season is the darkest month of evening star. Her charges are the Lover, the Shadow, and the Tower. Those born under the sign of the Thief are not typically thieves, though they take risks more often and only rarely come to harm. They will run out of luck eventually, however, and rarely live as long as those born under the other signs. The Serpent. The Serpent wanders about in the sky and has no season, though its motions are predictable to a degree. No characteristics are common to all who are born under the sign of the Serpent. Those born under the sign are the most blessed and the most cursed. The Lady. The Lady is one of the Warrior's charges, and her season is Heartfire. Those born under the sign of the Lady are kind and tolerant. The Steed is one of the Warrior's charges, and her season is mid-year. Those born under the sign of the Steed are impatient and always hurrying from one place to another. One moment. The Lord. The Lord season is first seed, and he oversees all of Tamriel during the planting. Those born under the sign of the Lord are stronger and healthier than those born under other signs. The Apprentice's season is sun's height. Those born under the sign of the Apprentice have a special affinity for magic of all kinds, but are more vulnerable to magic as well. The Atronach. The Atronach, often called the Golem, is one of the Mage's charges. Its season is sun's dusk. Those born under the sign are natural sorcerers with deep reserves of magicka, but they cannot generate magicka of their own. The Ritual. The Ritual is one of the mage's charges, and its season is Morning Star. Those born under the sign have a variety of abilities depending on the aspects of the moons and the divines. The Lover is one of the thief's charges, and her season is Sun's Dawn. Those born under the sign of the Lover are graceful and passionate. The Shadow's season is Second Seed. The Shadow grants those born under her sign the ability to hide in the shadows. The Tower is one of the thief's charges, and its season is Frostfall. Those born under the sign of the Tower have a knack for finding gold and can open locks of all kinds. Okay, so that's just about the birth signs that we pick at the beginning of the game. Next book, The Cantatas of Vivec. The cantatas of Vivec are gospels written in the form of epic songs. They trace the evolution of Vivec from a foolish mortal into an enlightened divine. Vivec sought out experiences that tested him in every way possible, particularly in the defense and protection of his Dunmer people, and through his long life, his humility, and his unconquerable spirit, he attained the wisdom of the 7 graces. The cantatas relate many stories of Vivec's experiments with challenges and risk, his failures and triumphs, his blessings of insight and good fortune, and his debt to his partners, Almalexia the lover and Sothasil the teacher. The poetry is simple and dramatic, lyric and personal, composed to be sung or recited. The following is an excerpt from Lord Vivec's Brooding Beneath Red Mountain. The gaunt ghost fires loom as subtle shrouds, smokes and shades on the biers of Red Mountain. Arches and spires line the rock halls, dimly lit by the spirits of the dead. The blood of broken hearths and houses runs in red rivers, blossoms in fountains. Girdled round within walls of wit's glass, the shattered hosts slumber in cradles of ash. But when shall they wake? What dark crucible may kindle their souls to light? How long beneath red reeking clouds must flickering watchfires burn? How many lifetimes of labor and lament will it take to seal this restless tomb? All right, next book. You know what? My voice is getting tired right now, so let's do Bothea's Glory. And if it's a satisfying conclusion, we'll pick a raid. It's not that long. Bothea's Glory. Look upon the face of Bothea and wonder. Raise your arms that Bothea may look on them and bestow a blessing. Know that battle is a blessing. Know that death is an eventuality. Know that you are dust in the eyes of Bothea. Long is the arm of Bothea, and swift is the blade. Deep is the cut, and subtle is the poison. Worship, O faithful, pray your death is short. Worship, O faithful, pray your death is quiet. Worship, O faithful, worship the glory that is Bothea. Into battle strides the Daedra prince, blade at the ready to cleave the unworthy. And there's a picture of a statue of... Alright, I'll leave you on this picture. Let me find us someone to raid. How long have we been going? Yeah, sorry I'm cutting stream short, but my voice is tired. We're definitely going to revisit this. We're definitely going to read more books. We only looked at a few tonight. I really thought I'd be able to go longer. Who's available? Mark, Kendra, other Mark. We're going to raid Mark Robinson music tonight. Have a good night, everyone. Not sure what's going on the next few nights, but I'll be back. I've got 2 more streams planned for May Celebration. 1 more Morrowind stream and 1 more Star Wars stream. So have a good night, and we'll pick up with the last 2 on May Celebration. We've got a few more days to get it out. We've got 6 more days for me to do these last 2 planned streams. And if I can fit in a third extra stream, even better. I realistically don't think I'll be streaming more than 3 times in the next 6 days. I know I have plans tomorrow. I'm not going to be home till late tomorrow, and I think... All right, well, we'll see how the rest of the week goes. Have a good night. Enjoy Mark Robinson's music, and I'll see you soon. Good night.